Welcome back, class. And today we're going to continue on with this topic in combined science biology. And this topic is called human gas exchange. If you remember last time, we talked about what gases we inhale into our body and what are the gases that we exhale out from our body. And there are four gases in particular. And these four gases are nitrogen, oxygen will we inhale and it goes into our body for our body to use, and carbon dioxide is the gas that is being exhaled out of our body. And there is also water vapor that goes in and out of our body. So those are the four gases. And we also talked about the names of the organs and body parts that make up the respiratory system. So the respiratory system is a group of organs that help us to breathe. And these are the nasal cavity, the pharynx, the larynx, trachea, bronchi, bronchioles, and alveoli. Now we're going to go through the functions of only four of these organs or body parts in this video lesson. So we're going to look into larynx, trachea, bronchi, and bronchioles in this video lesson. So the first organ that we'll talk about is the larynx. So the larynx is somewhere here. So it is somewhere in our neck or in our throat, and the larynx is the voice box. In other words, it is where air passes through it, and the larynx can open and close and vibrate, and that is how we are able to make sounds from our mouth. That's how we speak and sing and make noises. Okay, so this is a video that I got from YouTube, and this is basically what the larynx looks like. So you can see the larynx open and close depending on how we speak. Let me play the sound, the video. The next part we're going to talk about now is the trachea. So the trachea is this tube here, and it connects the mouth and nose to the lungs. The trachea has rings of cartilage to provide support, and the rings are here, basically, in order for the trachea to remain open so that air can go in and out through the trachea. The trachea is lined with cells that secrete mucus. So secrete is just a word that means give up. So these cells give up mucus. So mucus is a type of sticky, slimy liquid, and the purpose of this mucus is to trap dust particles and also bacteria. This is another video that I found on YouTube, and this is from Bristol Science Center channel. And this tube that you can see here, this is the trachea. Now behind the trachea is the esophagus, and if you remember from our previous topic, the esophagus is the tube where the food goes down. Okay, so that's the trachea again, and this guy cuts open the trachea, and you can see inside the trachea is very slimy. There's like a liquid there. That is actually the mucus that we talked about. Okay, so that's inside the trachea, and that's the mucus. The trachea also has something called the cilia on its walls. What does the cilia look like? Okay, so this is a zoom in picture of the wall of the trachea, and you can see there are these hair-like structures, these hair-like things. These are called the cilia. And these are very, very small inside the trachea, and it covers almost throughout the whole of the trachea. So the cilia helps to sweep the mucus containing dust particles and bacteria upwards towards the mouth. So the mucus and cilia, these things are inside the trachea, and they both work together in order to remove dust from going into our lungs. The next part we're going to talk about is the bronchi. After the trachea is the bronchi. The bronchi is this two tubes here, okay, this Y-shaped tube here, and it splits up into two parts. So the bronchi is a large tube branching off of trachea, and it also has rings of cartilage to support it and keep it open. and the bronchi goes into smaller tubes called the bronchioles. So it's this one here. Now, bronchi is a plural word, plural meaning there are two tubes, one going to the left and one going to the right. One bronchi is called the bronchus, and this is the singular form. Okay. So if you're talking about one tube, the one that's going to the left or right, we call it the bronchus. But if you're talking about these two tubes going to the left and right together, okay, so two more than one, we call them bronchi. Okay, so that's the plural form, the plural word, and bronchus is the singular word. And then we are going to talk about the bronchioles. So the bronchioles are these many branches that come off of the bronchi. So you can see it splits up into very different smaller tubes. So these are the smaller tubes coming out of the bronchi, and the bronchioles connect directly to the alveoli. And we're going to talk about the alveoli in the next lesson, which is in part 3. All right, so that is the end of this video lesson. We looked at 4 out of the 7 organs or parts of the respiratory system in this video lesson. We talked about the larynx, which is the voice box. We talked about the trachea, which also known as the windpipe, and inside the trachea there is mucus and cilia, and these two things help to remove dust particles and bacteria from going into the lungs. We also talked about the bronchi, which is two tubes connecting from the trachea to the bronchioles, and finally the bronchioles, which is a smaller tube that branches out from the bronchi and then connects directly to the alveoli. Make sure you remember the location of these organs and parts of the organs, and make sure you remember how they function. The next video lesson, we're going to talk about the final part of the respiratory system, which is the alveoli.